you only have one race to run in your life, and that is your race. When you start trying to compare your vision to someone else's vision, it's really a moot point to try to compare that. Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we could have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to help guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life through real estate investing. Now sit back, turn up the volume, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. Hey, Pathfinders, welcome back to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host, Eric.
And Tiffany.
And we are here today to walk through episode number 8, Creating a Vision, and how your vision is going to change your life. How is your vision going to change your life? Well, when we got started and we first crafted our vision, we were a little bit late. We didn't necessarily create a vision to start out with. We did not listen to the advice of our friends, colleagues, and the professionals that advise you to create a vision before you get started.
Well, I don't think the Vivid Vision book was out when we first started. And I don't think it was, I know Life and Air has been around for a long time, but it wasn't really, I guess, ingrained in the culture of our network when we first started. We didn't really have a network when we first started, to be honest.
Well, it wasn't until we went on that cruise that we really developed.
Which, let's talk about that cruise for a second. Well, it was a fantastic trip.
First of all, the cruise was held and put together by a good friend, colleague, and mentor of ours, Bill Cook. And he put this cruise together. It was called what was it called?
The Captains of the Deal.
Captains of the Deal, that's right.
Which they no longer do the cruise now. And it's been taken over by some other friends of ours, Jeff and Derek. And it's now the Generations of Wealth Conference, which is actually coming up pretty soon. So I think this podcast will be out after the conference or right around the time of the conference. Yeah. So definitely check it out for next year. It's a great group of real estate investors get together and network and learn a lot about real estate and building your business.
Yeah, just search on Facebook or on the web, Generations of Wealth.
Yes.
But anyways, back to that cruise, we learned a lot on that cruise. But one of the biggest takeaways I had there was from our guy, David Peters. Honestly, the biggest takeaway from David Peters was when we dressed up for
80s night.
And he had a blow-up guitar, and we were in what is the center of the ship called? The promenade?
Yeah.
I don't know, but we're in there, and there's the big light show and laser show, and he gets on the camera, and he climbs up the staircase, and he's rocking out. It was so great.
Yes.
But David Peters is a huge advocate with Life and Air, right? And his biggest thing that he tries to share with people is casting and creating a vision. And I overheard some conversations he had with other folks, as well as conversations he had with Tiffany and I about the importance of casting a vision.
Right. Well, and writing it down, not just having it, but really putting it pen to paper or keys to.
And David, if you're listening, I know I owe you my written vision still, even though it's 2.5 years later. But we have created a vision. I just never sent it to you.
Yes.
So my apologies, David.
With that cruise, the thing I wanted to talk about is just how insane life changed before and after.
Oh, yes.
So before the cruise, we
were childless.
We didn't have a kid. We wound up pregnant 2 months after. We're lone wolves in the real estate investing. We had our local meetup and great friends from that, but we didn't have mentors and a network, really.
Our network was
small.
Very small and local.
Yes.
Local to our area.
And then the other big thing that happened was this cruise was late February, early March of 2020. And we came back to a whole new world of COVID.
Oh, yeah. I remember being on the boat, and one of our friends from our local meetup was on the boat as well. And he said, yeah, I've been looking at plane tickets out of Cozumel and Curacao, because if they're not letting people off the boats, I'm getting my family home.
I mean,
he didn't tell us until after.
I know.
Keith, are you not going to try to get us home too? Because I had no clue what was going on.
Right, we were
with
oblivious.
COVID.
Yeah, but there were right when we were getting back was when boats were being, stranded and not able to unload. So we learned a valuable lesson of we will never have an interior room again. We'll always have a balcony because
if you're stuck on the boat, might as well breathe fresh air.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a very pivotal moment for us and the world. We took from that having a vision was important. And it took us a while after to really sit down and build our vision because we were thick in the hustle. But I think if we had done it, then we probably would have had a little bit more clarity on what to say yes to and what to say no to.
And there are some endeavors that we went down and chased that we probably would have not chased,
right,
and not spent our energy on.
Right.
If we had our vision written out.
Fortunately, we didn't lose money on those endeavors, but
we didn't make any.
If you account for the time we spent.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the one thing you'll never get back in life is time.
Yeah.
And so I would say, just as a precaution, if you are chasing dreams or endeavors, make sure they align with your vision.
Right. Well, you're climbing up the right ladder, like we talked about.
Right.
And
hustle is good, but the wrong hustle is bad.
Right. And we talked about this in episode 6. So make sure you're climbing up the right ladder so you can reach the goals that you actually want. And is it a heck yes or a heck no?
That's
and
right.
that, I think there were some opportunities where we should have said heck no because of it wasn't aligned with our vision.
We didn't go back and say, does this get us closer to what our vision looks like 3 years from now?
All that to say, we learned a ton from these different endeavors and are grateful we had them. But if you think about what we could have done with our time and money instead of those things, it's a tough pill to swallow. But
it is. When I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and we always had to sign these little books for new people, pledges coming in. And everybody would have these little taglines at the end of their interviews. And what I would write is live and learn, but never regret. Regret does really nothing for you but suck energy out of you. But if you can just take things that you've done that you might wish you hadn't have done, don't wish you hadn't have done it. Be glad you did it, because now you know that the learning experience is from it.
Right. I always think of, when you say no regrets, the no regrets.
Regrets or regrets.
Tattoo. Someone got a really bad tattoo that said no regrets, but it was spelled wrong.
Oh, goodness. So episode 6, we're referencing back to that, where we talked about Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision book. The point of your creating this vivid vision is, lean into the future. And for us, our future and our vision is 3 years. And pretend you're traveling in a time machine to a moment 3 years ahead. Dreaming where you want your company or yourself or your business to be in every single metric, from personnel to review to location to services, and working backwards from there. Most companies often do the opposite. They look where they actually are and make decisions based solely on that.
Yep. And like we talked about in episode 6 and 7, you really just want to focus on what is in the vision, not how you're going to execute on it. Dream as big as you can and just work towards not how you're going to do it, but the what of it.
Because you'll never know how to get there unless you know where you're wanting to go.
Right,
and I know I'm like a broken record saying that, but it is so true. Yogi Berra, I think, was quoted saying it. If you don't know where you're headed, you'll end up someplace else.
Well, and I think getting hung up on how you're going to do it, there's another really great book, Who Not How, that really shifted our mindset. You might not have to figure out how to do it. You might hire a team or already have a team in place that's going to figure out the how. So don't waste your bandwidth and resources on the how at this point. Just focus on what is the vision for your business, for your family, for your life for 3 years from now.
All right. So let's dive in, Tiff.
Yeah.
So how do you start? What do you do to create this vision?
Yeah. So it starts with getting the right setting. You want to get out of your normal routine. And let me just clarify, all of the stuff we're talking about here comes from the Vivid Vision book. So I want to make sure we give credit to Cameron Herold. We used it as the foundation for ours. We made some tweaks on ours. We didn't follow it to a T, but
we take what Cameron has written as well as what our friend David Peters has encouraged us to do. We've taken a blended approach.
Yes. Find what works for you. If you have exactly like the Vivid Vision crafted vision for yourself, that's great, but you don't have to follow all the rules exactly. At the end of the day, the goal is to have that roadmap for you, your life, your business, not necessarily to follow exactly what Cameron says in the book.
So we're in the right setting. We have removed ourselves from our daily grind. What do we do every day? For us, it was getting out of the house, but not just getting out of the house, but getting out of the town.
Yeah.
We took off to a campsite, one of our favorites to visit in Bryson City, the Grumpy Bear campground up there. And we went up to Bryson City for 3 or 4 days with the sole intention that this is our separation. This is our getting out of town to focus.
Right. And we actually had our son at that point. I think for us, our why was so big that we wanted financial independence so we could have the time with our son, that we just put our nose down and worked towards that. And then we looked up, I believe we did this in May. So he was about 6 months old. And we looked around and it was, okay, what now? And I think if you can have that clarity before you get to that point, it makes the transition a lot easier.
That's right.
So we worked pretty independently. I sat down and crafted what I want for our business and myself, and Eric did his own independently. And then we brought them together. And the reason for that is you want to make sure it's your vision for your life. And yes, we have a life together, but what Eric wants out of life is different from what I want and need. And we wanted to make sure we both had our voices heard, and then we can merge them and accommodate as needed. But by doing it separately, I know a lot of times Eric will just agree with me because it's the path of least resistance.
Correct.
So this was forcing him to really think about what he wanted.
Yeah, I oftentimes go with the flow. I'll get what I need and want when the time is right, has always been my approach. But I owe it to myself to put the things that I want down and not just go with the flow all the time.
Yeah.
Because happy spouse, happy house, right? But what you want and need are important too.
Right.
So I got caught up a lot on what does the vision look like? Is it just a chicken scratch sheet of paper? Are they bullet points? Everyone's vision is going to look a little bit different. If you follow the Vivid Vision book, it's probably going to be a narrative.
Right. I want to say it was like 5 pages is what he recommends.
Mm-hmm.
I think ours is about 2.
Yeah.
And honestly, a good quarter of it's about to get scrapped because we've changed directions on some of our goals and what we want to do. And it's really my section that's changing. I've shifted direction on what I want to do with my time. So I need to work on getting that updated. So David, we'll send you an update once we get it revised.
Yeah.
But when you're working on this, you want to create it in a way that resonates with you. So the idea is you're going to write it 3 years in the future. So right now, we're recording this in February of 2022. So you're thinking February 2025. What does our life look like? What does your life look like?
A cool thing that someone we have followed pretty adamantly is Brandon Turner on Bigger Pockets. He's no longer with Bigger Pockets. I think he's doing his own thing now. But one thing he would do is create a newspaper front page of his vision and say, it is February 2025. Here are the headlines.
Right.
What has happened?
Yeah. So he's got this big headline, and then he's got a narrative of what it's like to work in his company, what they've accomplished. And we'll talk a little bit more about why you should share your vision.
Yeah.
But he has accomplished more than a human being should in the amount of time that he has, because he had such clarity on his vision and worked with others in his community to get there. So building your vision, you want to take your BHAG and add as much detail as possible and get it very clear. That's why he calls it a vivid vision, is you want to take a black and white picture and make it like those really cool new TVs that are like so many pixels in it that it looks like you're looking at real life. Well, it's like even better than real life sometimes looking at them.
Yeah.
So you want it to be very colorful and rich in detail of what you want life to be like, and very specific. I know for me, I had in my initial draft that I wanted to have time for 30 minutes of yoga every day. That is not something I'm working on right now. So it's fun going back and reading it and seeing where are you working, where you're not working.
Yeah.
But you want to be very specific, clear, very detailed. And like we said, think 3 years in the future. We have had so many different versions of our vision because things just shift dramatically. I had on our vision that I wanted to be a private money lender. And I took the class. I remember the baby was tiny. I was holding him for naps and doing the coursework online, learning how to be a hard money lender.
Which course were you doing? Was that
Dykes and Dorsey Botiford's hard money lending? So we shifted because I realized that's not really how I want to spend our time. So you can change your vision. It's not you're setting what you want for 3 years and you're never going to go back and edit it. It's an evolving, living document. And I really enjoy keeping these different versions so I can go back and say, oh man, that's what I wanted to do. Like that. Glad I didn't do that. But
oh, man.
It's realizing the ladder I was starting to build was not the right ladder for me. And the course I took was great, even just as a borrower, having the knowledge there. And we have done some lending now, but having the clarity that was the wrong building to climb my ladder up, I've now moved it. And I'm focusing on things that are more aligned with my BHAGs and how I want to spend my time and what I want to work on.
I have noticed over the past 6 to 12 months how just intentional you have been about how you're spending your days. Used to, you could really get caught up with just absorbing education no matter what it was. And Tiff is the kind of person that will go down a rabbit hole, but not any type of random rabbit hole. She wants to go down something that is going to increase her understanding and knowledge of something that is beneficial to her. And what I've noticed is that you're not just absorbing all this information on these random topics now. You are allowing yourself to absorb some entertainment as well. You're allowing yourself to not just listen to educational podcasts. You're listening to some murder mysteries.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
I think the fact that you have realized that it's healthy to have entertainment as well as education, I've seen a difference.
Yeah, I think what happened was I had an 8-hour workday, and I am very efficient in how I work. So what I could complete in my work, I could complete my workload in probably 2 hours, if I'm being honest.
Tiffany is a machine.
Yeah. Well, I work smarter, not harder a lot. And I'm really efficient at Googling if I don't know something. So I don't beat my head against a wall. If I don't know it, I just go find the answer somewhere else. And that served me very well in my corporate career, to where I was able to go to grad school and learn and read and do things during my workday. And a lot of times I was producing more than 2 or 3 people on the team in half the time, because I was so efficient and so good at what I did. And I'm not trying to brag or anything like that. It's just how it was. But I used that time to educate. And now we have more time freedom. Our son's only in school for 6 hours a week. So that's a lot less time I have to consume education and to work outside of his nap. So I've had to be very intentional with how I spend my time and putting it towards things that are actually going to drive value. And I think I'm realizing there is value in downtime. And that's been a very big shift for me.
Right. But you would have never arrived at that destination had it not been part of our vision.
Right.
That you want downtime.
Right.
As part of your vision. And if you didn't put, my day is spent doing this and this, but here's this 30-minute or 1 hour section of my day where I'm going to just binge on something that is not educational, something that fills me on an entertainment value.
Yeah. And we have structured our day in a way that you take over daddy duties and are full on making sure Otto eats breakfast and gets ready, while I take some time to have downtime.
Right.
Because I am a workhorse and I don't know how to press pause and relax. So that gives me my time to recharge.
Well, ever since reworking our vision a little bit, I have noticed an incredible commitment to yourself to give yourself that downtime and to ask me, hey, Eric, I need you to do this so I can do this.
Yeah.
And because it's in the vision, and because I see how it's going to add value to our business and to our lives and our marriage, I'm more than willing to make myself available for those things.
Right. I think it's given us both balance and clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps us convey to our peers and network what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. This podcast would have never been launched had it not been a vision of ours. The book that we're writing would not be where it is today if it hadn't been in the vision. And because there's a timeline on that creates a sense of urgency.
Right.
Because just because you've written the book doesn't mean that people are going to read it or that it's ready to be out there. There are so many steps that go into it.
Yeah.
So we put that in our vision that we've written a book.
I think we have 2 books.
Our vision is that we've written 2 books. But you got to back into that. How long is the writing process? What's the editing? What's the cover art? what is the launch process? What's the follow-up after you launch?
Right.
There's so many things that you have to back into to build your timeline. And without that timeline, I wouldn't be as motivated to get into the writing studio and get in there and get words on paper.
Right.
When I started looking at that timeline on our vision and started seeing, oh, that rough draft has got to be done by X day, I went from writing maybe 500 words every 3 days to, well, I'm cranking out 2,500 to 3,000 words every 2 days to make sure that rough draft is ready for editing by
Right.
X day.
Yeah. And we'll talk through how to take this vision statement and break it down into annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and even daily goals and tasks. Because it is hard when you just have something this pie in the sky big that seems impossible to break it down into those bite-sized chunks. But we'll talk through that on future episodes.
Yeah, as you're saying it like that, I am thinking about the book writing process of what is the daily, the weekly, the quarterly goals. And without it laid out, you need to have 10,000 words written this month. Okay, what does that mean I need to write each week? Okay, what does that mean I need to write each day? It gives me those because if I said I got to write 10,000 words this month, I am a professional procrastinator.
Yes.
And I would probably, in my former life, just said, 10,000 words by the 31st. I can do that on the 30th and
Right.
make that happen. But as I'm learning through the writing process, there's a creative process that has to happen too. And that by putting it into a 2,000 to 2,500 words a week, I'm getting a lot better content. I'm not feeling as stressed to write. And I feel like the final product is going to be a lot better
Right.
because of that.
You're not writing a research paper in
That's
one
right.
night.
That's right.
So the vision statement's really a living document. We've changed ours, added to it. We also like to highlight it. So as we accomplish things, we highlight it in green. And it's really fun as we're building out that vision to see it turn more and more green. We also highlight in yellow the areas that we're working on, and then red the areas that we haven't started on. So it really gives you that stoplight view of how's it going. Real quick, you can see if your vision's pretty red, I need to...
Especially if you're 2 years into your 3-year vision,
Right.
And 75% of your board is red. But if that's the case, maybe the things that are in yellow and green were the biggest, most influential things that needed to happen.
Right.
And they took the most time.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
could
think...
be. At the end of the day, you just want to look at it and get an idea of, are you accomplishing and working towards the items in your vision or not? And if something's red and you decide it's not something you want to achieve, it's okay to take that out. But by highlighting it, it really gives you a quick glance view of how it's going. And at the end of the day, this is your vision, your life, what you want to accomplish. You're not doing this for anyone but yourself and your family, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you only have one race to run in your life, and that is your race.
Right.
When you start trying to compare your vision to someone else's vision, it's really a moot point to try to compare that, because they're racing their race and you're racing yours, and trying to compare life ambitions, life goals, things that are so personal. I feel like you're doing yourself an injustice to try to compare yourself to someone else's vision and someone else's race. But in saying that, you should share your vision. Not because I think or we think that you need to make people envy what you're trying to accomplish. No reason other than when you say it out loud, you are making a promise. When you say, I will own a Viper by 2025, a Dodge Viper by 2025, and you have specifics. It's a green Viper. It's a 1996. It is a V10 super horsepowered out Viper. You're telling folks, I'm going to have this.
Right.
And they're probably going to expect that you're going to have that. Someone's going to already have said, I want to be the first one to ride in that car. Just like when I said I'm writing a book, people have already said, I want to be the first person to get a copy of that book. I want a signed copy of that book, Dan Shank. You will get your signed copy, Dan.
Yeah.
But you're making a promise.
Right. It keeps you accountable, for
That's
sure.
right.
In some ways, you don't want to embarrass yourself by saying, I'm going to do this thing and putting a stake in the ground and then not doing it. And it's okay to change direction. I mean, we've pivoted a lot.
That's right.
We've had a lot of successes and a good bit of failures. And it's okay to change direction, but you want to make sure it's working towards your overall big dreams and vision for your life.
If you're going to succeed, you should do so with fashion. You should do so on purpose, in a majestic way, by telling people, I'm going to do this.
Right.
But if you're going to fail, you should do so in the same way. You should fail on purpose. You should be very intentional that I set out to achieve that, but you know what? It no longer works for me. It no longer is what aligns with where I want to be. So if you're going to succeed or fail, you should do it on purpose. And you should do it with an extreme sense of fashion.
Right.
Just do it on purpose.
Well, and sharing also allows other people to help you. We all want to help others. I think that's innate part of being a human. And people can't help you reach your dreams if they don't know what they are. So a friend of ours is a lender, and we knew that he was trying to grow his lending business. So we continued working with him a lot on deals and letting him fund our deals. And I don't know that we would have focused as much in working with him had we not known that he was really trying to grow that business.
Right.
We would have looked at other sources.
No one's going to know what you're trying to achieve if you don't share it.
Right.
Which, to reiterate, no one's going to want to try to help you achieve those goals if they don't know where you're headed.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of times having the clarity for yourself is great. Providing that for your close friends and family is really great because then they can grow with you. I mean, the people we were when we first met is not who we are today. And our family has seen us grow and evolve over this time. So by sharing this journey with them and sharing our vision, they're able to see and understand why we've made choices we've made.
Yeah.
So for example, the season where we were not involved in family events most of the time, I think had we had a vision and shared that, it would have softened the blow a little bit.
People probably would have been more supportive of us not coming to Thanksgiving 3 years in a row. As well as sharing it, you're going to get support. There's also going to be probably negativity. You're going to have people that won't support you. You're going to have people that challenge your vision.
Or don't understand it.
They don't understand it. They don't support it. They don't want to see you succeed. You're going to have haters. You know what they say? Haters are going to hate. Let them hate. They hate us. They hate us because they ain't us.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
That came from that, that movie.
What's that movie with that guy?
Dictatorship or something like that. It was the movie about Kim Jong-un and Seth Rogen.
Oh, wow.
Guy going
all
there.
right.
You know, they're going to hate you because they ain't you.
I do remember that now.
All right, good. But I wrote a blog, and it's on our website, onpurposeinvestor.com, and it's called It's All White Noise. And you turn on the TV, and there's no channel. This is back in the day. There's no internet or cable or anything like that. It's just terrestrial TV. What's on the antenna? If you don't have a clear signal, it's just that static. And that static is the white noise. And the white noise in your life can often be the people that are not supporting you or that are challenging what you are trying to achieve. And it's up to you to decide, are you going to let the noise continue? Are you going to listen to the noise? Are you going to turn up the volume on that noise? Or are you going to turn the TV off? Or are you going to do something even better? Are you going to adjust those rabbit ears? You're going to put some tin foil on top of the TV and get a signal and clarify it and turn on something that's worth watching. It's up to you to decide how you're going to handle the backlash of people not supporting you. You have a choice to make. Either listen to the noise, turn the TV off and stop, or put the effort in to find a clear signal and turn on something worth watching.
Yeah, in our business, we had some people telling us that you're going to have leaky toilets in the middle of the night and you could lose money, that having a job and investing in a 401k might be safer. But we knew what we wanted out of life. We studied and educated. We knew we were pursuing a path that works. We chased our dreams.
Right. I remember being on lunch duty while I was a teacher and just sharing with people that I was on duty with what I was doing, what we were doing. And those were the days where I was after work going down to Cooley Road, working on the house down there. And very seldom did I hear things of, well, you're going to make it, you're going to do great things. Often I would hear, that's tough. It's going to be tough to make that happen. What are you doing when tenants don't pay? What are you going to do when someone destroys your property? What happens when the housing market crashes? If the house market crashes, what are you going to do? They would always usually just say, well, you could pursue that and go do that. If it fails, you still have a degree.
Right.
You can come back and teach.
Yeah. Didn't someone say you'd be back
I don't know if I heard that or if it's something I read from Robert Kiyosaki.
Right.
In my head, I would always say to myself, because they would say, if you fail, you still have a teaching degree and you can always come back to teach. But I knew that no matter if we did fail, because there were some failures along the way, I was not going to go back.
Right.
I wasn't going to allow a failure to dictate my success, our success. I wasn't going to allow a speed bump, to stop our car from moving.
Right.
We're going to get over it. We're going to prepare better for the next one. And we're going to get through the future ones better.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the things or the topic of our conversation for next week is the best case and worst case scenario. And as we were pursuing this, we were chasing our dreams hard, but we also knew worst case scenario, we're going to wind up right where we are today. And I think that having a fallback made it easier for us to take some risks that at our age, I think was okay. Had we been a little bit older, I don't know that the risk we took would have made sense.
We probably wouldn't have made the same decisions we made.
Right.
We would have been a little more risk adverse.
Right. But we were in our 20s and we didn't have kids. We had a mortgage, but it was manageable. So the worst case scenario for us was
we sell what we got
and
recoup what we can.
Right.
And we'll just go back to what we were doing.
Right.
What was there to lose?
Right.
Essentially.
Yep. So we'll talk more about that next week. But in the meantime, thanks y'all for hanging out with us and listening to us talk about how to create a vision statement. How can you make the time you spent with us worthwhile? Is it scheduling a time to get away and work on your vision? Buying Cameron Herold's book, Vivid Vision, or something else? Don't let the time you just invested go to waste. You only get one life, so live it purposefully. That's all we have for you today. See you next time.
Are you ready to discover and build your dream life? Then it's time to become a Pathfinder. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get tips and tricks to help you find your path and get the latest from our blog. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review on your favorite podcast app. If you're enjoying this show, share it with friends, family, and fellow investors. See you next time at the On Purpose Investor Podcast.